Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new recording. In this lab or in this demo, we will work on creating a data model. So, as you remember from last time, you should have created a new environment. And in that environment, you should have created a new solution. So, this is my environment, it's not the default one. And here you can see the environment that I created. And the publisher, I was creating a new publisher, which has my name. Right. So after that, you'll click on the hyperlink to enter that solution. And again, from last recording, I told you to make sure that you can create a new table. Now, if I switch my environment, let's see, if I go to the UWO default and go to solutions, I have to create a database and stuff like that. So some of the, let's say, features, for me at least, is blocked. So I definitely do not recommend that you work on a default environment if you have let's say, an account from your work or you used your student email address. So let's go back to the new environment that I created and the solution. So we will be talking about something called Dataverse. So what is the Dataverse? Now, I'm not going to go into too much details. I recommend, or I will guide you to go or redirect you to go to the Microsoft documentation to read more about Dataverse. As you know, that much of details will be slightly outside the scope of the class. But in general, the Dataverse lets you securely store and manage data. Now, formerly, this was called different. It was called shared data sources, if I'm not mistaken. I apologize. It was called common data services. And now it is referred as Dataverse. Now, in Dataverse, you can store data within a set of tables, or sometimes we call them entities. Now, the table consists of a set of rows, also referred to sometimes as records, and columns that are referred to as fields or attributes. So we're going to stick to tables, columns, and rows. Each column would store a certain type of data, like a name, age, salary. Dataverse includes a base set of standard tables as well that we're also going to use in some of the examples that we're working on. Now here you can see this is the whole Microsoft Power Platform. And we have the Dataverse, the AI Builder, and data connectors. On top of these, you can use Power Apps to develop different type of apps, or Power BI for some business analytics and business intelligence. You can also use the same data for automating some of the processes at your organization, in addition to intelligent virtual agents and Power Pages. So why to use the Dataverse? Well, first, and according to Microsoft, it allows you to have an easy way to manage your data. Another thing, it has a good security measures and controls. So you can create some kind of roles, and for different employees or for different people who might need to access the data, and then give them access and control the access of the different tables in the Dataverse accordingly. Now, if you're using Dynamics 365 for customer relationship management, then you can access that data as well. It also allows you to have some kind of metadata or data about the data, right? So high level data about your Dataverse and the different tables and so on. You can create calculated columns. You can have different business rules, workflows, business process flows, and so on. And allow you to create different type of productivity tools for your team or your organization. Now, some of the terminology that's been updated, effective now, November 2020. The entity, let's just zoom in a little bit. So entity or entities are now called either table or tables. As I mentioned, fields are called column or columns. Also, attribute or attributes are now called column or columns. So honestly, sometimes you'll find me, instead of saying column, I will say an attribute or a field, just because that was the common terminology, or still the common terminology in the data world, especially if you're dealing with databases, relational databases, and so on. Now, records or record and records are now the current terminology is row or rows. Option set, multi-select option sets, pick lists or pick lists are now called choice or choices. Two options, like a binary field with yes, no. Obviously now it's called yes, no. Microsoft think this is a more intuitive way to call different objects in the Dataverse. I think it makes total sense. No problem with that. Right. So if you want to read more, again, go to the Microsoft documentation. This is the URL. So docs.microsoft.com, and then you can navigate to Power Apps, Maker, Data Platform, and Data Platform Introduction. Another thing, probably also worthy of reviewing or look at, is why to choose Microsoft Dataverse. I think Microsoft has a very good and powerful software as a service platform, commonly used in the industry. Many people are comfortable with Microsoft products and platforms. So, in terms of let's say, the time that would need you to learn a certain platform or application will be less. So the learning curve is not as steep as in comparison other platforms or other technologies. The Dataverse also has work with any type of data. So if you have a relational or non-relational data, files, images, and data lakes, especially if you're dealing with big data. So I don't know if you heard about data lakes or not before. So right now we have different type of data repositories. So we have relational databases, and we have databases for operational tasks and transactions. We have data warehouses, data marts, and also data lakes. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into these. Simply going to fall outside the scope of this class. If you're interested in knowing more, I highly recommend to go to Microsoft documentation and read a little bit more about it. Very interesting stuff. A lot of changes going on in Microsoft. So what we're going to build right now is a simple example where we're going to create, or actually the application will be based on 3 tables in the Dataverse. 2 of them we're going to create from scratch, and a third one we're going to use from an already, let's say, built-in data. If you remember, when I created this environment, I had selected the option to include some like sample data. So if you have not chosen that option, that you did not click on that option, then you have to go back to the environment, edit your environment, and include that. You can do a quick Google search. You will find so many ways to help you doing that. Or simply you can create a new environment and make sure to select that sample data. All right, so let's go to table. So the first table will be a table for a coffee shop. So the example will be a coffee shop that would have owners, and there will be some contacts. So the first entity or the first table would be to hold the information of that coffee shop. So let's go to add new or plus new, or you can, I believe, right click here somewhere. Maybe not. All right. So new table. And now first thing you have to include is the display name. So I will call this coffee shop. You can add a description if you want. And there's some advanced options here. As you remember last time, I talked about a prefix. So in this schema or the schema name, you will see that prefix showing up. So YA, these are my initials. The type of table, I'm just going to keep it as standard. And then keep the default for the rest. For now, I'm just going to keep things as the default. All right. Now there's another option, which is a primary column. So I'm not going to do anything here. Just simply go back to the properties and hit save. It'll take a few seconds. Then after that, I'll see the table that I just created. So now I have, you see number 1 in tables, and I see the coffee shop table. And it's just going to tell you that there is a new look, blah, blah, blah. You can go through that. I'm just going to exit from this. So you can see here in the schema, there are, so this is the structure of this table. So what are the columns there? If there's any relationships, we're going to create relationships between those entities or tables. I'm sorry, let me stick to that. And if there will be any keys. Right, let's click, or you can click on columns here or click on columns here. It's up to you. And if you notice, by default, I have a primary name column. Let me zoom in a little bit. Primary name column, which is single line of text that was created by default. And now I want to create more columns. So for this table, we will create an address, a column to hold the address of the coffee shop, a column to store the phone number, a column to store the seating capacity, a column to show if there's any outdoor seating, and then there will be 2 additional columns, one for the landlord and one for the contacts. So we already have the name created for us. Now let's click on new column. So the display name will be address. You can add description if you want. This will be a single line of text, and the format will be text. All right, I'm gonna hit save. Now you will notice that the new columns here, display name. Let me zoom a little bit. So address, you can see now the schema name is YA underscore address. It's a single line of text. And that's it for now. Oh, required. This is important. So this is this field is not required. As you probably noticed when we were like entering things, some of the fields had an asterisk or like a red star next to it, means that you cannot, let's say, submit the data. So you cannot save the record unless that piece of information is entered. So this one is not required. That's an important feature. I'm just going to keep it as is for now. Now we're going to create another column, and this will be for the phone number. And now this will be, now you have different, I just want to show you that you have different options like text, number, date and time, a lookup field. We're going to talk about it a little bit more later on, a choice of currency, auto number. This is if you have like a counter, for example, you have transactions and you want to give them a serial number, and so on. A file if you want to do an attachment, an image and so on. All right, so I'm going to keep this as a single line of text. Now here's the format, and the formats that you would have as an option, you can leave it as the default, but to be honest, it's better to have some kind of format to it. So for example, you can format that text to be an email. So we all know how the email format looks like, a phone number and other things. So a URL, for example, a ticker symbol. So I'm going to choose phone number. And that's it for now. I'm just going to hit save. It'll take a moment or so. Now you can see phone number here. Now let's create another column. And this column will be seating capacity. So you probably notice I don't leave spaces between the name of the object. I personally speaking prefer that. I see a lot of people put underscore. I'm not saying that leaving a space is wrong, but for me, I don't like to leave spaces just in case. All right, so seating capacity, and this will be a number. And also for numbers there, you probably can see there are some format options. I'm gonna leave it the default. And here, if you want some information, that information symbol, you can read a little bit more and then hit save. All right, now another column. This one will be outdoor seating. And then I'll make this a choice. And in choice, you see I have different options. I'm not sure, like if this should be a number in terms of like how many seating outside, or if there should be yes and no, and then the capacity would include outdoor, indoor. I'll leave this up to you. If you think that the outdoor seating should be a number, to kind of, have a differentiate between how many seats inside versus outside, that is possible. If you wanted to have a choice as a yes, no, so if there is an outdoor seating or not, you can follow my choice here. All right, and you can see here the labels. So yes and no, and the no would equal to 0, and the yes would equal to 1. The default choice, you can change that from no to yes. And then hit save. Now there will be 2 more columns I'm not going to create right now, again for a reason, which one will be for the owner. So there will be a column that will save or will capture the information of that coffee shop's owner, and another one that will have information about the contacts. Right, so I'm gonna leave those for now and come back and do it later on. Okay, so now let's start the second table, which I will call it owner. Same as the previous one. Oh, sorry, this was a column, my bad. Yep, let's go back here, tables, click on tables, and then new, another table. So this will be owner. All right, and then I'll hit save. Now, similar to the previous table, I'm going to create, or by default, let's say, go back here to click on columns. You'll have the name by default created or automatically created. So this is the primary name column, and it's required, as you notice here. And you see the prefix before the name of that object or that table. Okay, so we have the name. I'm going to add address. So similar way, column, this will be the address. And looks good. Hit save. Now another column for phone number. And this will be text. No, the format will be phone number. So a single line of text, format is phone number, and hit save. Okay, so let's now go back to tables. And as you can see, I see 2 different tables, coffee shop and owner. Now, an owner can have multiple coffee shops. So the relationship between owner, let me zoom in a little bit, between the owner and coffee shop is 1 to many. So let's assume, or let's try to present a table with a box. So this is the owner box, and this is the coffee shop box. Now, I can't have a coffee shop without an owner, but I can potentially define an owner in the system without a coffee shop. Now, to make things simple, I probably would require that if I enter an owner, that owner should be associated with at least 1 coffee shop. We call this 1 to many. Now you can see that the line between those 2 boxes start with, let's say, 1 line and ends with 3 lines. So that means the relationship between the first entity, or again, sorry for that, the first table and the second table is 1 to many. All right, so how do I build this type of relationship? Well, let's go to coffee shop. And in columns, I will add a new column, and the display name will be owner. So this will hold the information of the owner. Now, at this point, a coffee shop can only be owned by 1 owner. Right, owner, this is a text, or no, it's not a text, sorry. It is a lookup. So this is a lookup field or lookup column, right? And it will be required. Now, what is the related table? Well, we created a table owner. So this lookup going to go and find, or will try to find, an owner. Whenever I try to define or try to capture the information of this coffee shop, for this field, the information has to come from the table owner. So let's go find table owner. Again, I see all those tables because we have this sample data that we added to our solution, and that we need that for the third table. All right, so this is owner, and I hit save. All right, so let's go and try to find that column and verify. So owner, here it is. Okay. And everything looks good. Now, if you want to verify that you created a relationship, you can click on relationships, either this one or this one. So let's start with the coffee shop since we created the column in the coffee shop table. And here you would see YA. So this is the prefix for everything. So the relationship is also considered to be an object here. So let me zoom in a little bit. All right. So this relationship is between coffee shop and owner. Okay, and it is many to one. Now, many to one or one to many, honestly, it's the same thing. It just depends how you look at it. So from the last example, we had one box, or they represent the owner, and one box that represented the coffee shop. And we said, to represent this relationship, I drew a line between those two and had one single line from the owner. This is the owner, and this is the coffee shop, right? So it had one single line from this side, and I said this is, you can read it as one, and from the other side, many. And between those two is two. So one, two, many, right? Now, if you read it from right to left, not from left to right, it'll be the same thing. The relationship between coffee shops and owners is many to one. Call this the crow's foot. But it doesn't matter what you call it as long as you understand what it is. Okay, so now for the third table, which is for the contacts, instead of creating one from scratch, I'm gonna go and leverage one that I already have from the data sample. So click on Add Existing. And then click on Table. And then I can search for Contact. And here it is. And click on Next. And then hit Add. All right, now let's see the contact here. Click on Columns. I'll see the different, oh, probably missed something here. Sorry, guys. So let's go here and click columns one more time. Probably because I did not include all objects. So let's remove this one. So I'm selecting contact again. Click on remove this solution. Click remove. Now one more time. Add existing table. Contact. This is the contact I want to include. Click on next. I want to include all objects and then hit add. Now, this is contact. Let's click on columns. I see that the columns already exist. All right, so how to create a relationship. Now, the coffee shop, let's go back here to tables. All right, so the coffee shops would have multiple contacts, but the contacts also will have multiple coffee shops, or they will have their contact in multiple coffee shops. So let's try to present this quickly. So I have a object here. All right, this is the owner. And then I have another one, which is the coffee shop. And then I have a third one. This is the contact info for my customers. So let's make this C-O-N, right? To kind of differentiate it. All right, so I explained how the relationship between the owner and the coffee shop is one-to-many. Now, the relationship between coffee shop and contacts are many-to-many. Means that a coffee shop would have multiple contacts, multiple customers, or the contact of multiple customers. Although the contacts could have their information at multiple coffee shops because they could be going to different locations. We call this a relationship many-to-many. Right? Many to many. Sorry, I'm using my mouse to kind of write these, so not that easy. And this one is one to many. So the owner would have one or more coffee shops. The coffee shop would have one or many contacts. The contacts could have their information, or the customers could have their contact information at multiple coffee shops. Now, let's say if you had if you have some background in databases, you probably know in a relation database we cannot create a many-to-many relationship directly. Now, this is not the case here, so that's the beauty also of the Dataverse. Now, if you never dealt with databases before, have no idea what does a relational database mean, forget about it. It just to know that in some other places you can directly create a many-to-many relationship. All right, so how to do this? So tables, this is contact. I'm clicking on contact. Now here I want to add a relationship. So what I need to do is go to new relationship and then click on, I have three options, either many-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. Now, many-to-one and one-to-many, it matters how you create it, like which table you start first, obviously, but the many-to-many doesn't matter really. So click on many-to-many. And here I have the first table, the contact. Let me zoom in. Okay. And which is the table that I am trying to relate this one to? Well, this one will be the coffee shop, right? So coffee shop. I just start typing the first few letters, and then that kind of filters the number of tables, and click on coffee shop. Awesome. Now you can modify the relationship name, so on. I'm not going to do that for now, and just going to hit done. Okay, folks, so to summarize what we have done, so we first created a solution. Inside that solution, we create three different tables, or we create two tables and reuse an existing table from the Dataverse. In addition, we created different columns for each table and relationships among those different tables. So please do so. And, I suggest, for example, to take a screenshot of this last part and put it in a Word document. So you simply take a screenshot of this. Make sure that you are showing the objects that you created, the tables that you created, right? So you can see here the name of the tables. You can customize the tables, as I told you, if you like, but don't change them in a significant way so I understand what you have done. Make sure that the names and the prefix are showing correctly. Told you last time to make sure that to add your first initial and last initial in the prefix, so when you create an object, it shows that it was created by you or to be easily recognized. You're showing the environment and also the username or the user initial showing up here. So take a screenshot of this and put it in a Word document and submit it, and that will be it for this week. Thank you for watching, and looking forward to see you guys in another recording. I hope that you enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, please reach out to me.